Our speaker series is taped and rebroadcast on Spectrum, channel 203, Cincinnati Bell 8:15, Thursdays at 8 p.m. And it's also posted on TBNK On Demand and on our Facebook. Today, our speaker will be on the ballot for Tuesday, May the 17th for the Kentucky primary election as a candidate for the newly established Kentucky State District 24. I am pleased to have the pleasure to introduce Chris Robinson. Let us give Chris an optimistic welcome for stepping up to the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you to Optimist Club, but thank you to 3 other people in this room that are doing exactly what I'm doing, which is stepping past your fears and stepping up to be part of democracy. So for you 3, perfect. All right, anybody else who's served in public office, you know what we're going through and we enjoy it. All right, my name's Chris Robinson. I live in Grand Slick, Kentucky. It's a southern little farm community in Campbell County. I've lived there all my life. I've lived in the district my entire life. I will tell you a little bit about me, just so you got some background, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my ideas. So my wife Lisa is here. We're a blended family. We have 4 children amongst us. The youngest is 24. The oldest is 27, 28. And I live next to my mom and dad's farm. They have a 100-acre farm. We continue to farm that particular property as we have for a number of years. I spent about 12 years in the United States Army, so I'm a veteran. I understand leadership. I understand leadership under duress. And I understand responsibility to other people, myself, or those people that I'm leading. I believe that good leaders need to be able to be well-rounded in a lot of the areas that they're in. In addition to my military experience, I'm also a licensed professional clinical counselor. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in clinical counseling, and I have worked in jails, in residential treatment facilities, in hospitals, various facilities, treating drug and alcohol and mental health issues for at least a large portion of my adult life. I currently own 2 small businesses. One is a construction company, one is a home inspection company. My wife co-owns those with me. We chose to make this approach into small business because we wanted to be able to live free. And to me, being able to choose what you do when you get up every day is about freedom. Having said that, within this district, we have a number of issues that we need to look at. It's interesting, little anecdotal note, within this district, there's 12 bridges, there's a hydroelectric dam, and there's a ferry. And if that doesn't describe to everybody how diverse this district is, then we can go into more. Now, what I'll say about that is that all 12 of those bridges are important. They cross either the Ohio River or the mighty Licking, and we know how far Kenton County is from Campbell County, so we must maintain those bridges so we can get back and forth between these 2 counties. In particular, we've got some bridges that protect some of our infrastructure and our development that we need to maintain. The country as a whole, for the last 35 to 40 years, has done a really poor job of maintaining our infrastructure. We haven't done the right things that we needed to. Probably since the Eisenhower system was put in place, we have really been limited in our maintenance infrastructure. In our county, in our district rather, we have a problem with infrastructure development. We lack some of the basic resources that we need to be able to attract and retain not only citizens, but also quality businesses. Sewers, water, roads, and the ability to establish and receive people into our communities as they grow is critical for us. Thriving, growing communities have great infrastructure. If you don't have an infrastructure, you can't grow those communities. If you don't have the communities growing, you can't attract businesses. It all fits together. In addition to our place that we have in Campbell County, we also own a small summer home in Bracken County, down in Augusta. I can tell you that in Augusta, there's about 1,000 people, maybe 1,100 on a good day, and that what we see is, again, the diversity in the mix of people throughout this entire region. We have very similar issues in Bracken and Pendleton County as it relates to resourcing and accessing quality work. The single greatest thing that we export is labor. It comes from Mason County, Pendleton County, Bracken County, and it drives over to Florence because we aren't able in this district to recruit quality businesses where we can keep our our people employed. We put them on the road and export that labor. The initiatives that I'm interested in are about promoting better quality of work and training. We have some representatives in this district that are doing some great work out there. In the 70th district down here, we have a representative who's promoting the use of KEYS money for trade training. I am big into trade training. I come from working with my hands. That's how I grew up. My dad, high school dropout, built a business with his hands. That's how we have communicated and developed the world that we live in, is by people going out and working. We've run into a problem in the last couple of years with people going to work. And part of our issue is that we're not training the youth of tomorrow to be able to develop and build the infrastructure and society that we've grown accustomed to. Because of everybody's hard work and effort throughout however many years of growth, not maintaining it, and now we don't have the people to fix it. In addition, in some of our rural counties, we sorely lack health resources. Those health resources are not just the physical health resources. We do pretty well in the northern part of this district. We have access to a number of hospitals. When you get south and in the unincorporated rural areas, what we have is a medical gap. That medical gap is pretty significant for the people. They have to travel. If I were living full-time in these counties in some of these rural areas, I would be very concerned about my ability to access health care in a very quick way. It pairs up with some of the law enforcement issues we have. Very limited law enforcement. So when you look at the critical issues with the opioid epidemic, fentanyl, whatever drug we're substituting today, and you look at the need for expanded law enforcement, which we have very limited numbers in rural counties, and you need to have good medical care and good quality drug and alcohol and mental health care. Those are shortages and gaps that can only strengthen our society. It's hard enough for people to be able to go just get a routine medical care. They have to drive a long, long way to do that. And you don't realize that when you've been blessed with the access to resources that we have where we live in the northern part of the district. So our infrastructure is tied to our infrastructure of the people. When we don't have infrastructure to help people grow as a person, we have a very difficult time trying to grow business and industry as well, because everybody's not engaged. The last thing that I'll talk about is small business growth and why that's so important. The one thing that I know is that in the last 2 years, the thing that has kept America going has not been big industry, it's not been big business, it's been the small business. The small business owners that individually are free to choose how they go out and make their living and contribute to our economy and contribute to our society have been the backbone. And I will absolutely support small businesses and their ability to grow. One of the things, and I talked with an individual this morning who's another small business owner, and I said, you know, the hardest part about owning a small business is that not only are you trying to do the work, you're trying to run the payroll, you're trying to keep people employed, you're trying to keep up with tax laws, you're trying to just try really hard to run a business. And we make it really difficult for small businesses to have resources that help them know how to learn and operate a business. It's a struggle. And so people either give up or they don't do it the right way. And what we do is we don't end up creating quality opportunities for growth in those small businesses. My vision would be that what we do is work on our infrastructure, fight hard for some money that maybe hasn't come our way over the last several years. We need to be able to really articulate just how bad it is out there. Because I think a lot of times we forget that there's over 1,000 people in this district that don't have access to clean drinking water. I've been to third world countries, I've been everywhere, I've been places that I wouldn't ask any of you all to go. But what I saw there was people who didn't have access to clean drinking water. People who were under duress because of the environment they lived in. They were oppressed. They, in a lot of cases, they didn't understand freedom. And so my perspective on freedom comes from not only my life experience, but my absolute will to continue to live freely. The last thing I'll say is this. I will never take a podium and stand up in front of people without mentioning our veterans. I will tell you that I know that this job is right for me, that when I signed my name, there was one other time in my life that I felt this way, that I felt responsible for citizens that were bigger than me, issues that were bigger than me. And that's when I raised my hand and took that oath to defend and protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath never leaves, never leaves. Apathy is the enemy of democracy. And if you're apathetic democracy, I always ask for two things. I ask for you to go tell two people if you like what you heard. And I also ask you bring two people to vote or register two new people to vote. Because if we don't get as many people as we can out to participate in democracy, it's our fault. So I thank you all today. Let's go out there and get people registered and get people engaged in this process. Thanks to my co-campaigners. Let's get after it, and let's make this place a better place for all of us to live. So thank you very much.
Questions?
Perfect. 3 or 4 questions.
Chris, first off, where do you stand on employer mandates for testing and vaccine mandates? Secondly, as a clinical psychologist, what's your thoughts on how we have masked our children the last 2 years? And lastly, what have you done for healthcare workers and students during COVID?
Okay, that's 4 questions, but I'll back up and see if I
Three.
can follow them down.
Three.
Got that, right?
I got 3.
You
So
got
do
3?
1 at a time.
Okay,
Do the first one.
let's do the first one. First of all, I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm a licensed
Oh,
professional
I'm
clinical
sorry, I'm
counselor.
sorry.
But that's okay, because I function the same way. I can treat and diagnose mental health and emotional disorders. I keep walking away from this one, I'm wrong. So, but I can't see her because I gotta. So to the first question, how do I believe about employer mandates? Is that correct?
And their testing.
Vaccination.
Okay, so I'm a believer in freedom. I support your freedom as an individual to make any choice you want, totally. Doesn't matter to me if you get a vaccine, you don't get a vaccine, we've all had the opportunity. In much the same way, I've worked for employers that have requirements for me to wear a mask. And the reason that, I'll give you an example, is because when I was in the military, I had to be clean shaven. It was a requirement to work for that company. If I chose to not want to be compliant and work for that company, then I had to get out, all right? And the reason was because I had to have a mask that would protect me from nuclear, biological, and chemical issues. Not just me, but all the people I was responsible for. Because as a unit, I couldn't function if we weren't safe. So my choice at that point was to comply with what the expectations were or to get out of the military. What was?
Second question.
How do you feel about our kids being masked the last 2 years?
I don't think the masking has been good for anybody. Personally, I think that what's happened, and from a clinical perspective, I would say this, I think that society has changed. And I say that because I think in the last 18 to 24 months, we have a lot more angst and anger towards our fellow human beings. There are forces out there in this world that are looking to divide us in any way they can. And that's a problem. We've determined now by the CDC that masks don't work. So we had a large social experiment that we ran up against until we found better information. I don't like it because I think it's hindered our kids. You know, they can't recognize faces. They cannot recognize faces because of that.
Third question.
Third part, what have you done for healthcare workers and students during COVID? And all the mandates?
I've supported them in them making their choices and being free in whatever way they want to.
So the 2 years of COVID have just devastated small business. They're really, we've lost a lot of small businesses. How do you promote and support and help them, now that hopefully the epidemic is over?
Well, I think number one is encouraging them to stay the course and just be present. There's a lot of available work out there because we haven't had a lot of people working. So in that sense, a lot of their struggle from my perspective has been we can't find people to go to work. That's been a bigger issue than whether or not they could maintain their business. The reason they couldn't maintain their businesses was resourcing, people resourcing. So I encourage people to go, we share posts about, you need a job, we need a job, we need a job. Like, here's opportunities to go to work. To say that I support them, part of my interest is in making sure that if we can go find opportunities to create small business resources and kind of small business zones or areas where they can grow their business, that's what they need support to get through the governmental issues that are put upon small businesses.
Yes, you're talking about small business. I had the excellent opportunity of growing up with a father who owned his own pharmacy, our own pharmacy. And as a result of that, we had to work in the pharmacy. And growing up, I actually learned how to run a business and how to do everything because my dad was there and we're a small business. We were St. Benedict's, people would come down and call him Doc. I mean, we just touched the community. And when I look back and think how fortunate I was, at the time I was fussing sometimes.
Sure.
But we need to get back to these small pharmacies, these small business owners, and also my husband. He had his own business, Osborne Winters and Lally. They did also things with restaurant equipment and whatever. But I know what it's like and how hard small business men and women have to work to put in the time and effort. It's a challenge.
I started going to work with my dad when I was probably 10 years old because my mom went to work for the health benefits.
Yeah.
To this day, my wife goes to work for the health benefits because it's so difficult.
To add on to what Janine just said, what do you think about work-based learning in the high school environment?
So, big fan of the tech schools, and again, there's some opportunities out there, and there's some private individuals out there in our district that are grinding really hard to bring trade training to the middle school level. Think about it. We can get a 12-year-old, introduce them to some amount, not just trade training, but skilled training. So we can begin to introduce them to how to work. What I've noticed is our young people don't know how to go to work. It's not that we can't train them. It's that they don't know about going to work. They've had a really good life, chances are. We've really taken care of our people. But we have to be able to help them learn how to go to work. So that trade training at the early entry and the modifications that we need to make at the high school level, stop pushing everybody towards college. Let's talk about how we can get our country back through the hands of the people.
Good.
Thank you.
Face.
30 seconds, okay. I close the remarks, and I'll give you my constitution.
Thank you.
The pocket constitution, I carry one with me constantly and read it all the time. But I want to thank you on behalf of the members for your commitment and dedication to our country, our county, and our state, and willingness to speak out and let your voice be heard. We thank you for making a difference. We are grateful for your time and your efforts to share your thoughts and experiences. And as Thomas Jefferson said, nothing strengthens so much authority as silence. So let your voice be heard. That is my mantra.
Thank you
Speak
very
out.
much.
All right, will you turn this way a minute?
Let's go.
One. Come on, G.